Hello again, everyone. Edwin Learnard back once again. In this YouTube astrological segment, I'm going to be talking about Taurus and their appearance, and yes, it does apply and pertain to the Sun, Moon, and Ascendant. And keep in mind, people, that you have to factor in ethnicity and race into the equation, because depending on your race, ethnicity, some of this may not apply and pertain to you. This is a general physical description I'm giving for the Taurus zodiac sign. Well, anyway, people, the first thing I look at as far as the physical appearance for Taurus, okay, as far as the build goes, well, the build tends to be short to medium height, stocky, a stout build generally. For Taurus, Taurus seems to incline to being as far as average weight to above average in weight. A lot of this is attributed, I think, to the fact that Taurus could be somewhat stagnant and sedentary. Taurus, don't get me wrong, can be a very hard and laborious worker, but in contrast to, say, like Aries, they're generally not as active on average as that sign. And another thing with Taurus too, they're generally, as far as the height goes, they're generally short to medium and middle stature. The arms and legs tend to be short. The trunk tends to be long for Taurus. The shoulders tend to be broad but can be rounded. And Taurus, as far as the face goes, well, Taurus generally inclines toward an average length head, about medium size, could be roundish or squarish. The jawline can be prominent with Taurus. The eyes are often large and full and often blue. The nose tends to be about medium length, but with distended nostrils often. The mouth of Taurus tends to be full. The teeth tend to be even and straight, but small generally compared to the average teeth. Forehead tends to be, I would say, lower than average generally. It seems like you'll see some Taurus, though, with a more prominent forehead, though. The hair inclines to be a dark color. I would say more often brown than not. Black some cases. The hair can also be very profuse and thick and sometimes curly even. And the face tends to be full for Taurus as well. And as far as the Taurus can incline toward heaviness and fleshiness, and you could see this is very evident if you look around, like say the cheeks can often be full for Taurus, and the jowl can also be rather full for Taurus. The neck tends to be short and thick for Taurus. The eyebrows tend to be broad. As far as Taurus goes too, as I stated before, the limbs are generally rather short. Taurus too, as far as the eyes go, the eyes, not only, as I stated before, can often be blue, but the whites of them can have a lustrous look to them, a shiny look to those eyes, and that can really be a very prominent feature for Taurus. And when Taurus walks too, when you see them, a lot of times that the feet will come before the rest of the body. It's almost the antithesis of Aries, when you have Aries walking often with the head protruding a little bit further than the rest of the body. With Taurus, it seems like the feet are often coming well before the rest of the body. A former late night talk show host, David Letterman, has Taurus rising, and if you ever see him walk, he looks like he walks very strongly with his feet coming way before the rest of the body. I noticed that with him. And a thing with Taurus too is that the limbs can be rounded, and Taurus can have a muscular build to them. And Taurus is also a sign that generally does not gray very rapidly. you'll see, and there's something about Taurus too, it seems like they age very gracefully. For whatever reason, they seem like they're very late in terms of grain, and Taurus generally, I mean, is one of the longest signs to go the longest, either without balding, perhaps, or I should say, before actually starting to bald. The balding, most men, I'm sure, in old age they do bald at some point. Almost all would, presumably, but Taurus, I would say, is one of the latest in terms of doing so on average. So, and another thing about Taurus, if I didn't mention it before, is that the mouth, not just full, but the lips can be full as well for Taurus, and they could often be well shaped, really forming like a Cupid's bow to it. So anyway, people, that'll conclude this YouTube astrological segment for Taurus and their appearance, and stay tuned next time where I'll be talking about Gemini and their appearance. Two things I want to get with you on before I head out. Firstly, the stars may impel but do not compel. And secondly, never isolate any single astrological element, aspect, planetary placement, position, configuration, influence, or what have you, and make an analysis of a person, astrologically speaking, based on this alone. Because astrologically speaking, the person is the sum of all their components in their natal chart, and not just one. Until next time, people, stay well.